Oh, hi everyone. Today I'm talking with Charlotte, and Charlotte was one of my students, what, 4 years ago?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, probably 4 years ago now, because I'm in my fourth year of business now, and I was in my university entrance.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. So
fifth
four,
year of
roughly four.
university.
I'm sorry?
This is my fifth year of university, technically. Fourth
Yeah.
year of business, yeah.
Yeah. And then I think you were in my first year. Sorry, you were in my class in your first year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was in your first, no, probably second semester. I feel like it was probably second semester. I forget. It was too long ago. But first year, I was in your class.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember because you were asking me questions all the time. I would, I would suggest something and you're um, well, how does that work? And then you would always probe. Do you
Yeah,
remember that?
where I was at, just, and we'll get into it, but like where I was at back then, I used, because I remember every class the first question you would ask is there anything that you're struggling with right now? And I would shoot up my hand, and
Yeah.
I would honestly, might sound bad, but use that class as like therapy almost, because
Yeah.
I'm like just going through first year of university and like all that stuff and the stress that comes with it. Just every time you would ask that, I feel like I was the only one like shooting my hand up, like, yeah, I'm having a hard time with this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that. I remember that. And it's funny now because now I actually refer to it as therapy. So we'll get into class. I'm like, okay, guys, therapy time. Anybody have any challenges? And then a lot of the stuff comes out. But it's really good because I find that when students discuss their challenges and their problems, they can start to learn better because
Mhm.
they've gotten that stuff out of their head. So
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, so what I wanted to do is kind of ask you since we haven't spoken for like 4 years.
We
uh,
randomly saw each other in the hallway, just
yeah,
randomly.
randomly saw each other in the hallway, and you
Yeah.
don't even live here.
I
And
don't, well, yeah, I do live in Calgary, but like
okay,
I'm still there, but I'm visiting here, and this is where I live for a year and a half because of COVID. So
yeah,
like,
yeah. And not only did we randomly run into each other, we both had masks on.
yeah,
So it
I was
was
like,
really,
hi. And then I had to like kind of pull it down and be like, yeah, hi.
yeah, 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 yeah. I remember that. I remember that. So what I wanted to do is just kind of ask you in terms of like where are you now and sort of what transpired after I taught you.
Okay, so basically what happened, and just to like a brief backstory, is that when I was in high school, I was dead set on going into nursing. That's what I wanted to do. All the classes that I did in high school were in mind. I had that I wanted to do nursing, and then the competitive average for nursing at MRU is quite high, and so yeah, I had plans on taking that first year of university entrance to upgrade my courses to get into nursing. Got my average up to 90, and the average at the time was 93, so I missed it by 3%, which was very disheartening. But also I was going through I don't know if I want to do nursing anymore, which was very scary, because I was like, for my entire elementary, junior high, high school, I was like, I want to do nursing. Now I'm in university, and that's not what I want to do. So that fear of like starting at square one was very real to me in first year, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So in this class that I took with you, I was going through a hard time, because I remember in class once, I remember telling the class that I got into teaching and business. So and I think overall the class taught me to figure out what I want to do for myself, and not for like other people. Like, figure out what success is for me, what that means to me, and not focus on what other people will think, and stuff like that. So, you know, also giving yourself credit for what you're doing is another thing.
Yeah,
Just taking it.
one of the things that, and I just want to interrupt here, is
Yeah.
that one of the things that we talked about in class was that you have to come up with your own definition of success,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think what was happening and what you realized was that you were struggling because you were not clear on your own definition.
And also the whole thing about effort doesn't equal success.
Yeah,
The efforts will equal success if it's something that you want to do.
yeah,
So for my first 2 years of business, I was putting a bunch of effort into stuff that I just wasn't into. So like, how do you get motivated by that? I would sit in front of my exam on exam day, and I would barely pass my exam, if that.
mm,
So I think what I realized is, I was like, how do I succeed if I'm not passionate about this?
Yep.
Like, what if like this goal, what is this goal at this point? Like, what if I was just losing it? I was like, what am I going to do with this? Like, none of this interests me. And
Yeah.
then you hit a point where when I did start to enjoy marketing, I was like, even though I'm in 4th year now and I'm still not clear as to what my goal is, but I'm confident with the direction I'm in. So that's good enough for me right now. That's what, like, I know success is somewhere down there. Therefore, now, maybe starting 3rd year, when it was mostly just marketing courses that I was taking, I really started to find that passion and that success in mind, even though it's not super clear to me, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't, like, there's still stuff to figure out. However, now all the work that I was doing, I felt motivated. I found the effort I was putting in it. I saw the results of it. So that's kind of where I'm at now, where it's like, I'm confident that I'm on the right path, and the efforts that I'm making is towards that success that's somewhere.
Yes.
I just did a branding class, which I really enjoyed. In fact, we just won because we worked with an actual client, a real client, real world client, and we had to do this big presentation for him. And the winner, the winning team, got an extra 10%. So this morning I woke up to congratulations, Pulse Creative, which was my team. We got 100% on it. So it's I'm at a point in my life, well, in my school years, I guess, where I'm finally getting the recognition that I needed and the reassurance that I needed to keep going in that success route. I see it with my grades. I still have a hard time giving myself credit for what I'm doing. But it's very, yeah, now it's like this, having this good grade, amazing grade, 100%. I mean, it was pretty good as you can get. It really reassured me, being a 4th year student, that I can do this in real life. I can, once I'm out, I can actually succeed doing this. So now I'm in a way better, clear, kind of confident stage in my university career.
Yeah.
So.
And did any of the concepts that we covered in our class, that any of those concepts helping you now?
You know, when you get to 3rd and 4th year, there's so many big projects and work that you have to do. I recommend looking into it. Like, what I started doing is looking at the assignment. Don't look at the assignment a week before it's due. Like, look at the assignment, know that it's coming, have an idea of what's coming, so you're not completely just lost as to like what's coming ahead. But what I started doing is really time management. I remember talking about time management in class. That was like my saving grace, like in the past 2 years, really, because before that, it was, again, when you're not motivated, when you're not, your efforts and like your success and the end goal are not aligned, and you're kind of just lost. Time management, like, you could try doing it all you want, really, but like, you have to figure out the big picture first, and then you can like start.
So yeah. So when you take a look at the assignment first, if like right away, when you just take a look at it, that it actually is speed of implementation.
Well, there you go. So I'm doing it. There you go. So
there you go.
do it.
Yeah. So, you're doing it. And by getting familiar with the material, maybe not actually finishing it, but just getting familiar with it, you're actually activating your mind, right? To start thinking of how to actually solve the problem. So you are doing it. So it's good.
There you go. So, and then another thing I realized about time management is, there are so many times, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, is that you're just sitting in bed or whatever, and you're thinking about all of the work you have to do, and you're freaking out that you won't get it done. What I've realized is that if you actually sit down, look at all of the hours that you have in your week, including work, including everything you have to do. If you look at all of the hours that you have during the week or coming months or whatever, you will find time to finish everything. You know, like, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, like, I wake up at 9 and I look at my day ahead. I'm like, I'm not going to have time to do everything. Yes, you will. If you sit down and you go for 4 hours, 2 hours, I'm going to do this. And then for another 2, I'm going to do that. You're going to get your stuff done. You're going to get it done. So that's what I started doing, especially when things were getting, intense, and like, again, fearing that I wasn't going to get everything done. I printed out an hour per hour schedule of my whole week, and I put in all my work in there. I was like, all right, you're going to go to class from this time to this time. You're going to get home. You're going to have 2 hours to do this. And by doing that, you also realize that you have time for other stuff too. So every single week, because, I'm in 4th year, so it's busy. but every single week I dedicated Saturday nights as me time, which whether it was hanging out with friends, staying home, watching a movie, I scheduled that into my schedule as well, which it kept me sane moving forward, because when it got to that point, the Saturday nights, I wasn't freaking out about my assignments. I knew in my head, no, you have time to relax right now. You have time.
What I'm noticing is that you actually changed your mindset, which was, no, I will get this done, versus,
Yeah.
right? So versus, oh, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. You already changed your mindset. Like, no, it is going to get done, and I will do it.
Yeah,
But
I still struggle with it. There's like, I have this, I do have an, I call it my hamster, and my mom calls it my hamster. I have a hamster wheel in my head. I think 5 months ahead. I worry about what's 5 months ahead, and it stresses me out. It causes me a lot of anxiety. And even though I'm planning out my whole schedule and I know I'm going to get it done, it's almost my stress and anxiety sitting on the back burner. Like, no, I'm still here. So even though my brain's telling me, you're going to get this done, you know, you're going to get this done, my gut is telling me, is like freaking out still.
yeah,
But I think it's just because of years of like not being good with time management, and that stress is still there. But so it's like, my gut's trying to catch up to my brain, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But I feel so much more relief, especially in the last 2 years, and like implementing that, the time management, is that even if I still feel the stress, I'm working on it, but I know in my head that I'm going to get everything done. And that's a huge relief. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like university doesn't have to be this stressful, bad experience. Like at first, and that's another thing, like when we get into like my recommendations for first years and stuff, because I was first year when I was in your class, to realize that like realistically, your first year you might not do as well as you thought, because in your first year you're getting used to university, you're getting used to a new environment, you're getting used to what your profs expect of you, this expectation that you have coming out of high school, and then when you get to university it might change. For me it did. What I thought university was going to be like versus what it actually ended up being. So it's like a lot of different things where it's just like, it's okay, you're going to be fine. Better than this. My GPA doesn't define who I am. But that's when I realized, no, you got to do it. You got to do your school for yourself. And also your GPA, I'm sorry, but like, it's not the main goal, because you know what? I'm still a B+ student, but I was on the president's roll last year. So, you know what I mean? I excelled last year. My average for last year was over 3.7, but I'm still sitting at a B+ student, and I'm okay with that. So like, don't stress about your GPA, focus on what you want to do, what success is for you. And if it takes you a little longer, it's fine. When you get to university, you notice that there's people that are 27, they're late 20s, early 20s, like some of them are in their 30s going back to university. Like, you have such a wide range of ages. There's no rush to have it figured out. If you graduate in 6 years, then you graduate in 6 years. It is what it is. As long as you figure out what's good for you, what success is for you, because once you figure that out, your efforts, your motivation, it's all gonna come together, and you're gonna find that passion. You're gonna find what it is you actually want to do, which is what happened to me.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we spend so much time coming up with our own definition of success. Because and we talked about careers, and we talked about what your goal is. We talked about, you remember doing that 25-year assignment? We had to
yes.
Right?
Yeah, that was a hard one for me.
We had to imagine our life in 25 years. And the reason for that is because if you don't know what your goal is, you don't know what success means to you, how do you get motivated? How do you actually end up succeeding? How do you deal with the challenges? Like, you can't. And so that's why it's very important that sometimes you have to think backwards versus forwards. And it's very counterintuitive. And this is why a lot of students in the school system, they struggle. And I don't know if you're in my class, but now when I start my classes, I get the students to put their hand up, and I'm like, how many of you have been taught how to learn? And literally, maybe if I'm lucky, maybe 2 or 3 hands go up.
Because that's such a question that you wouldn't expect or think about. You've gone to school since kindergarten, where you're being taught things, but like,
never been taught how to learn.
Exactly. Exactly. When I first signed up, I was like effective learning. I was like, okay, like at
Yeah,
first I was like, okay, like I'm gonna okay, figure out how to succeed, I guess. And at first, yeah, I was doubtful. I was like, what is this class? Like what
yeah,
effective learning? What do you mean? I've been learning my for
yeah,
12 since kindergarten. Like what's
yeah,
happening?
yeah,
But
yeah,
then when you actually start it and what's actually being taught in it and realizing that your studies, you're doing it for yourself and not for others, it's like, oh, okay. So okay, I'm going through my studies for myself. I do it how I want to do it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
huge. Did you
And
want?
also, yeah, one more thing. If like you haven't figured it out yet, what that success is, it's fine. I'm in fourth year and it's not clear. It's not clear as day, but I know I'm on the path of success. We'll say that. I'm
Yeah,
on the path of success. I don't know what's at the end of that road, but I'm really confident and excited about this road that I'm on.
yeah,
And that's what's getting me motivated. That's what's getting me through,
yeah,
the
yeah.
next things. Yeah.
And that's interesting because even with my situation, I always had an idea of what I wanted to achieve, and that idea is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That idea is enough. And then as I go through things, all of a sudden I get these other opportunities coming at me as well. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if you were there, but as I was teaching, I ended up getting a TEDx opportunity, so I did that, and then I
Mm-hmm.
ended up doing a talk, at the Smiley Center in Toronto. So all these things kind of end up happening, but it's
Mm.
part of the journey as you figure it
And
out.
it's impossible to have a dead set goal of where you're going to be in 20.
Yeah. The thing is that if you don't have a clue at all, that's also not good because then
That's
you
all.
could get
Yeah.
then you could get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was trying to get you guys to do is really understand that you may not have it all figured out, but even if you're like, you know, 50% there
Mm-hmm.
or 60% there, at least you know the direction of where you're
Yeah.
going.
And also give yourself credit for
Yeah, yeah,
that. Even if
yeah,
you're just at 50%, give yourself credit for
yeah.
that.
That's huge. Yeah,
I have such a hard time giving myself credit for the
yeah,
work that I'm doing.
yeah,
Um, for example, like me being on the president's role last year, I had a really hard time like fully accepting that. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
like give yourself credit for what you're doing, even if you're halfway, 25%, whatever it is, everything you do moving forward, even if you're not clear as to what the direction is yet, give yourself credit for the little things you do. Do it for yourself, even if you don't have it figured out. If you're doing classes that you absolutely hate, for example, business, like if you're like me, if you're in business first year and you're doing all these classes and you're like, what the hell is this? Know that it's going to get better. Once you get, it's just those first 2 years. And it's okay if your GPA is not that great because at some point you're going to figure out what you actually enjoy doing. And that's when your motivation and effort is going to come in and you're finally going to see the results that you want to see.
the good thing is that you're sorting it out in your own way. Like everybody's different, right? But you're figuring it out in your way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And I think it's good. Like I was actually talking to a friend of mine, and she and me are quite similar because her and I both don't want that 9 to 5 life, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't want to have that 9 to 5 job sort of thing. But everybody has told her that's what you need to do to be successful, and that's why you went to school.
Yeah.
And so she's having a tough time, and I went through that, and I'm kind of helping her through it and stuff. But the key is that I admire her because she's like figuring it out on her own,
Mm-hmm.
and she's building a life based on what makes her happy.
Yeah, for herself, not what everybody else
Yeah,
is doing. Because like, why you're at school for yourself. You're at school for
yeah,
what you want to do. Like,
yeah,
do it for yourself all the way
yeah,
through.
yeah. And that's huge because once you start thinking that you're doing this for yourself, magically you start to do much better. Because
100%.
right, because now you're learning because you want to acquire that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
You're doing the assignment not because you want to get the A, but because you want to get the value and the learning from the assignment.
Yeah. And
And
you know what? In the past, I'm going to say this semester specifically, just because, last year was online. Now it was back in person and, a little more time management was required this semester. I found myself, coming home from school and naturally just sitting at my desk and getting my stuff done. And I wanted to get it done.
speed of implementation and a good
Exactly.
and a good mindset right there.
Exactly. Before I would just come home and I was like, oh, I'll watch a few YouTube videos, or oh, I'll watch an episode of this before I get my work done. And then when that episode or whatever was done, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do it. And then
Yeah.
I would keep it to like the last minute. But now I'm like, no, like for example, this project that I did with this company, it was exciting. It was fun. I looked forward to meeting with my group. I look forward to me like, so every day when I came home from work, and also having that schedule, I knew that, you're going to go home, you're going to work for a few hours, but don't worry, you schedule time in your day to watch those
Yeah.
videos and watch,
Yeah.
Netflix, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So
mhm.
yeah, no, I think it's really good. And even if you don't think you're implementing some of the stuff based on the conversation that we're having, you're implementing it. Your
Yeah.
mindset is really good. You are using speed of implementation, and just your overall clarity on you defining success for what it means to you
Mhm.
is also what you're doing too. So I'm noticing, because I've been teaching this for a while, that you don't just take things like that. Like you don't
Mhm.
just, okay, that's how it is. You actually test it, you play around with it. Does it
Mhm.
work for you? Does it not?
Yeah.
Right. And when you get it, and I'm just going on off on a limb here, but it seems to me that you're the kind of person it takes you a while to get, but when you
Yeah.
get it, you got it good.
Oh, I got, yeah. Oh, yeah.
At
Yeah.
least like you become
You,
you become a
yeah.
master.
For me, I'll go through the frustration of why isn't this working? Why blah,
Yeah.
blah. Honestly, I might give up a little bit, but as soon as you get it, my goodness,
Yeah.
it's like this relief.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. Like I remember when I was in school, everybody would get the material faster. Everybody would understand things much quicker than me, right? And they would just, I would feel like I'm so dumb, and they would just get it faster. But then
Mhm.
I noticed that if I stayed with it longer than they stayed with it, like whether it was sports, whether it was academics, whatever, if I stayed with it longer than they stayed with it, all of a
Mhm.
sudden they may be here with their knowledge also, but I didn't quit. I stayed persistent. Next thing I know, I'm here.
Mhm.
And then these people, they don't even know how I got to that level. It's
And
because,
also, yeah, and realizing that like people have different strengths.
yeah,
You're all
yeah,
different. Like for example, like working with like teams, like especially like MRU again, it's very like team based and group projects.
yeah, yeah,
Working through those,
yeah,
realize your strength. Like you're not the same as another person. Their strengths might be their
yeah,
strengths might be your weakness, and vice versa. Like
yeah,
you know what I mean? So like just because they're excelling in something, like you got your own strength too. You're
yeah,
good at something too. Like, and
yeah,
again, give yourself credit for what you're
yeah,
good
yeah,
at. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And that's why, our environment is key, because if you're in an environment where everybody's sort of beating you down and telling you you can't be successful,
Mhm.
like a lot of professors and teachers do,
That faculty member.
and they do that,
Yeah.
what ends up happening is they don't understand that by them doing that, they may, you know, I think when they do that, what they're actually doing is inflating their own ego.
Mhm.
By doing that, you can actually crush students. So, I mean, we can
And
get into all this stuff in more
yeah,
detail, but the key is don't let that environment affect you, because you have, just like you said, you have a lot of strengths and a lot of gifts that just because they're not recognizable by other people doesn't mean that you don't have them.
yeah, exactly. And then just like one more thing about doing stuff for yourself, no matter what people say. Another good example is that I was I don't know if that makes sense. I was scared. I was pushed into getting a minor out of fear of what that same faculty member said.
Yeah.
I was going to say I wanted to stick with marketing and I was good with that. And then I was told that if I only have a major and no minor, that I wasn't going to stand out, and there's nothing that was going to be special about me.
Yeah.
As soon as that conversation was over, I booked it to the business advising office and I added a minor. Now it worked out. My minor, I love it. It's public relations. It's same boat as marketing. So I was like, why not? And I ended up liking it, thank God. But I was pushed and into doing that. And I did it. And at first I did it not for myself. I did it for what other people will think.
Hmm.
So at first, the only reason I went into public relations is because of what other people will think, that I won't be good enough if I just have marketing, which is not true.
No.
There's a lot of people that are in fourth year right now that only have one major, which is totally fine. Whatever you want to do is fine.
Yeah.
And they're successful.
Yeah.
But I was pushed into adding a minor that I didn't really think twice about. She gave me a list of minors and I was like, yep, okay, sounds good. I'll take this one.
Yeah.
Like, thank God I ended up liking it because, so do things for yourself.
Yeah. And I think the key point, just in terms of what you're saying, is that number one, you need to be able to really come up with your definition of success, but the definition of success has to be internal.
Yeah.
It cannot be what outside people are telling you success is.
Yeah.
And if you try to become successful based on what other people tell you, number one is it's going to be harder for you to be motivated. And number two, even if you achieve it, you're never going to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't stem from you. And the sad part is it's usually when you get older, do you actually realize that I actually didn't achieve my definition of success.
Yeah.
And by that time, it could be too late. So that's why it's important at a young age for you to maybe take advice from people, but don't let them tell you what success means. Yeah. You got to do that because everybody is built differently.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I really appreciate the conversation. So I'm going to